This pretty good coverage is brought to you by Power Grip, the official retail partner of the European Pro Tour.
Hello and welcome back to coverage of the 2023 Estonian Open. We are here in Pihlapalu at Kõrvemaa Disc Golf Park, a very technical and beautiful course. This is round 3 front 9 FPO lead card coverage. With only 18 holes to go, we will be crowning your next EPT champion. I'm Connor Wood, and with me, Johan Walstam.
Hello everyone, excited to be back here. We definitely saw some heated action there in the second round. I'm expecting to see the same this round. Up first, we got Teele Toomsalu. She is rated 872, but yesterday she shot 962 rated, 100, almost 90 above her rating.
Poised for a strong finish here, you see Kaidi Allsalu, an already season win under her belt at the Copenhagen Open just a few months ago. Glad she's joining us here.
And here we have Anneli Tõugjas-Männiste, rated 972, confident in C1. She'll run those C2 putts and she'll make quite a few of them, as you can see that 38%.
And rounding out this lead card, Kristi 904 rated, strong circle 1 putting, strong scramble game, good command of the disc on the backhand and forehand. And I think that's really the qualities that are needed to make these lead cards. So excited to see the fireworks that no doubt will go off here in this final round. As we take a look at the standings, you see Teele and Kaidi tied in first at 2 over par, Anneli in third, Kristi in fourth. Very exciting battle.
Yep, you can see you're gonna almost shoot just slightly below par, and you'll probably be poised to take the whole thing. So let's see who can keep up those scores today.
Yeah, and they get started here. Hole 1, par 3, 85-meter island hole. You can see what is inbounds by these white markers coming up here. It is a straight shot, but you can also throw a soft hyzer with the backhand or forehand. There are some trees on the left that do invade the safe island space. The backhand hyzer can sometimes drift towards them, and the circle is also just about circle 1. So if you're up there and safe, you have a circle 1 putt.
Yep, this hole can definitely set the tone of your round. You definitely want to start out strong. It's quite technical, straight shot. As you see, Teele here flips it up to flat for a little bit, but hyzers out a little bit early. She'll be just outside the circle for in the hazard, putting for 3.
Yeah, a great point we didn't touch on is that is hazard. There's no drop zone, meaning that they'll take a penalty stroke and play it from where their disc lies. Kaidi low out of the hand. She'll hope for some ground play, but doesn't find enough to be safe. She will also have a circle 2 putt to try and save par.
Perhaps a bit of nerves here. You see Anneli, she looks quite amped up to get this going. She goes the higher hyzer route, clears the tree, and
Beautiful.
she will be just outside bullseye, around 7 meters away. Great shot.
Kristi now on the tee. I do think especially final round lead card can bring more nerves than the average round. If you have experience on that though, can go a very long way. Kristi with a nice straight shot, puts herself about 7 meters short, but with an open look, a great throw. Kaidi from C2, she gives it the bid on the elevated basket. Nice to see that attempt there.
That looks a bit too obstructed to get the height. Teele smartly lays that up for her bogey tap-in.
Kristi with some hot shoes going on there, really popping.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, unable to cash the birdie putt out the left side, but Anneli does find it to get us started.
And that's a great way to start this final day. She saw her competitor struggling, and being able to take down that birdie will definitely give her some confidence going into this front 9.
Solid comebacker there for Kristi.
See Kaidi here.
And it's a very interesting... Oh, she gets a lot of chains, but just flips over the cage right side.
Yeah, I was just about to say that's no gimme putt. Always when you're putting slightly uphill, It's something that you don't regularly practice when you just go out to do your regular putting practice, so it can definitely get you. And to get her there, it's a double bogey to start. We'll see how she can bounce back from that.
Yeah, we saw 2, 3, 4, and 5, an immediate separator there on hole 1. We move on to hole 2. Par 3, 112 meters. You have this initial tree line to try and break through an inside gap on a high hyzer angle for the right-handed backhand player. You need your disc to then quickly go left and push forwards as you have these final guardians to contend with. I think the distance and the placement is really tough to get both of. For a lot of these players, I think it will be a placement hyzer off the tee and then a second upshot, definitely a bonus birdie.
Yeah, I think if they want to get into C1, they're going to want to take that inside gap on the hyzer. Anneli going on the outside gap here. Gets shut down. But if you want to get there, you have to flip something up to flat and ride a little bit before fading into towards the circle. But it's definitely a technical line here. As you see, Kristi also going for the high hyzer line. She also finds the trees.
That one was looking really good. She gave it the height and the hyzer angle, but didn't get through the first tree line. Teele here gets through, doesn't have enough height to fade all the way, but a very good shot regardless, and she'll have, at worst, I think, a stress-free par. Maybe a long look.
Kaidi here, looking pretty good, going through the middle gap. She ends up in a similar spot. Tough to get the distance when you're throwing such a high hyzer there.
Big turnover forehand from Kristi here, and she finds that left side OB. It comes into play pretty quick if you go too far left or long before the green. And Anneli's also pushing that OB, but you see her disc drop just before the tree line. She'll be safe by a few meters.
Yep, and here we see Teele. She has an open look. She can give it a soft run. Didn't quite get over on it, so she'll still have quite a tester there to get her 3.
That is Kaidi on her third shot. Or second, rather. They were right up there adjacent on the tee shot, so she'll also be taking a par, no worries. Anneli throws her arms up, doesn't get the full fade on that approach.
And here we go. That's a tough putt right there. Completely obstructed. At least from
the window.
Yeah, at least from our point of view. But that looked like it went cleanly through, so definitely had a tiny hole to go through there.
Anneli, that I believe was for bogey, as her errant upshot left her with that tester putt, cashing out on the left side. She'll be tapping in for a double.
Definitely seeing some nerves out here on final day. Can get to your head very easily. But Teele gives it just enough over the rim. She gets her par. And that's going to feel good, getting a par here, seeing your competitors struggle.
And you saw it was a great angle from Teele's putt to see just how close that OB comes into play up on this screen. It is significantly less than circle 1. You can find danger quickly on the very demanding hole 2. And it doesn't stop there. Hole 3 is also a tough one. Par 3, this sits at 146 meters. You do have an elevated tee and a downhill throw, but the significant distance as well as OB on the right and left side can spell trouble. You really need to choose how aggressive you want to get. If you do want to try and get it up there, you have to push the right side tree line as much as possible and then fade it back in for the right-handed backhand. I think for a lot of these players, it's a placement hyzer and upshot, likely playing for the 3 because this one requires huge distance and accuracy to try and attack the 2.
We did see some of these players go for it, and they got into deep C2. We see Teele here going for a pushing hyzer, get some ground play, but she'll be in circle 3, I would say, perhaps even more.
Yeah, I think a placement shot there. You saw she didn't really try to flip that up to flat or even turn it over. Kaidi here pushing the distance a little bit more, but still overstable disc on hyzer the whole way. No worries at all.
Yeah, we'll see what Anneli does here. she's right there in the mix, so she doesn't need to go for anything too aggressive on this hole. She definitely has a powerful backhand, but she does something very similar to the rest of the card.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's worth, especially let's say if the distance, some of these ladies do have that over 100 meter controlled powered drive, but given the danger that you bring into play, I'm just not sure that it's worth it, especially in this final round. Early on, taking these extra strokes can really be the difference between podium positions or cash lines, and I don't think this is the hole that you want to be attacking on unnecessarily.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. You have to choose the right holes, choose the holes that play to your strengths to go for the birdies. And this one is not that hole for most of these players here. As you see, Anneli going for that trusty forehand approach. She puts it right outside bullseye.
I only just noticed that her tactic matches her hair.
That's true. That's a great combination there.
Great
So
upshot from Kaidi.
Yep, no stress there. And we are just seeing a clinic on how to play this hole nice and safe. See if Teele can do the same, and looks like she gets the CTP on the upshot there.
Yeah, Teele has been really smooth with that forehand approach game, very consistent, rare that she makes too many mistakes, and you really see her comfort leaning on that shot, as we'll see some short tap-ins looking like a par frame.
Sure is. And it should be noted that Teele came into this tournament via the Monday qualifier, and she is the lowest rated on this card, so it's impressive to see her currently leading the tournament.
Great stuff, as she's not yet found a birdie, but she has maintained a good consistency, not too many unforced errors, and as you mentioned, currently sitting in that solo lead position. We move on to hole 4. The first par 4, this sits at 154 meters. A very interesting hole that offers you a variety of shots. You have this initial gap in the fairway. The majority of players are going to try to go on the right through this gap that the drone is flying. And if you're throwing the right-handed backhand, fade left before the second tree line, opening up your second shot. You see you have this old World War II obstacle in the fairway that you want to try and beat as you crash through the second tree line, and then finally here, the third, the basket tucked away at 154 meters. You can throw backhand, forehands, rollers, whatever you'd like. You just need to make sure to stay on the fairway and get your distance. It's not too long for a par 4, so these ladies can definitely attack for birdie.
I think most of them are going to try to get past both of these two tree lines. You can see the first one on the left, second one on the right. If you manage to get through both of them, you have a fairly straight upshot from there. And we see Teele just come out a little early there, finds the first wall of trees on the left.
And it's possible with a really incredible shot she could be still playing for birdie, but it's likely par. She'll have about 100 meters left. We see Kaidi pushing the inside gap a little bit more. She filters through to the edge of that second tree line. That's a good shot that will position her about 50 to 70 meters away from the basket. That's a good spot to be, to still be attacking for birdie.
Yeah, slightly obstructed by the trees there, but she'll have an open look there. Anneli here, wanting to look straight with some finish is all you need here. And that's a great shot. She'll have an open approach. And definitely want to get some more green on that card with a drive like that.
Absolutely great placement. Kristi now. She leans a little bit more on the understability traditionally, as that's a really nice shape. Skips right out into the open, right up by where Anneli threw. Those are two great tee shots that are positioning themselves right where they want to be. Oh, Teele with the Anheuser forehand straddle around the obstacles, gets caught up in the second tree line. She will still need to do some work to save her par here. Let's see how close she can put this approach. She has a gap.
And she finds more trees, unfortunately, there. Really struggling through this hole. She'll probably want to try to just have a easy up and down for her bogey there. And look at this. patent pending stance here. Good flexibility there to give herself lots of space from the tree. She gives a decent shot there. Will put herself in C2 for her birdie chance.
Anneli now a little bit pinched on that left side, but a totally fine spot. She swings in the hyzer, gets a soft skip. Oh, she'll have a little sapling to deal with, but she's right up there in the circle, putting for birdie.
And Kristi with the best drive of the group.
And the best approach.
She drops right into the basket. A little bit of roll, but no problem from there. She will most likely get her birdie.
Teele now. This is her fourth throw. And she finds more branches. I think she's trying to really push the distance on all these scramble shots, but a little bit too high, and she's finding a lot of trees in her way. Heavily obstructed. Teele now from downtown.
To say bogey. And what a run.
Oh, wow. Incredible attempt.
You know, in certain situations like this, even when you're struggling through, hold on to that, because look at Kaidi. Yeah, this deserves a replay. Let's take a look at that again. Full commit, leaves it out wide, trusts the overstability of her putter, and drops it center. Beautiful work.
Some stunning putts from deep there. Anneli making sure to cash her birdie as well. Second already of the round here on hole 4. Nicely done.
You can see how tight it is at the top right here. Kaidi and Anneli getting their birdies. And Teele will take her double bogey here. So shifting on who's in first place. We now have it split between Kaidi and Anneli. And Teele will have to fight back in order to...
All right, here we are on hole 5. Par 3, 108 meters. This has a very unique shape and a very specific line if you want to match the shape of the fairway. As you fight over this hill and through these trees, you have a heavily sloping green that you need to attack that has a high risk of rollaways. I think the shot shapes really nicely for the forehand flex if you have the distance. Otherwise, you can play a backhand hyzer flip or turnover, but it's a little more touchy. And then even once you're on the green, your work is not done. You got to keep it tight in the chains.
Yeah, I'm expecting to see some forehands here. Definitely shapes nicely for it, but Kaidi, she trusts her hyzer turnover game. She goes through that right gap. A little bit too much turnover, but she makes it through all the trees, and she'll have a look there for her birdie.
Yeah, fine spot to be. Kaidi has a really good forehand, but she's been playing the backhand all 3 rounds here on hole 5. We'll see Anneli now looking to shape that flex. This looks like a good Anheuser release. She beats the trees, and as it fades back to the right, she sneaks into the circle. She is putting for birdie. Great example of that forehand line.
Yeah, that's how you draw it up right there. She had struggled in the second round, so good on her to make the adjustment here in the final round and get close. Here's a Kristi with a backhand turnover. Didn't quite find the gap there, and she'll be scrambling from the woods on the right.
Teele now. We'll see how well she can bounce back after a tricky double bogey on the last hole. Fortunate kick back to the middle there. I think a short forehand approach for her. Still about 50 meters. I'm curious to see how high up the hill she'll try to land.
And this hill can really give or take. As we've seen, some have no problem sticking on these steps, and we've seen plenty of rollaways as well. So you never really know what kind of result you're going to get on this hole, or this green rather. But these landing at the bottom of these steps reduces that chance of a roll away. So should be a fairly easy putt from there. Didn't quite have the line for a putt there. She tries to lay it up. As we see 3, Anneli goes for it, and she sits.
Yeah, very fortunate. If that had caught edge instead of landing flat, she would be back to the bottom, but she'll have a tap in 3. Kaidi here. Nice uphill putt. Difficult on camera to show just how steep that is. When you're putting from down low that much uphill, the gap between the top of the cage and the bottom of the band is way smaller than a traditional horizontal putt. So the actual gap of chains you need to hit really shrinks. So it's not as easy as it might look even from this distance.
Yep, solid putts there. We're poised for a par frame here. That one had a little bit of a spit out there, but catches on the cage nicely on the way down. And Anneli can just tap in her 3, stress 3, as we move on to hole number 6.
A beautiful overhead drone shot here of hole 6. A very specific shape, especially off the tee shot. This par 4 is 182 meters, demanding off the tee a flex or hyzer flip shape that pushes the back tree line. You then need it to stall or fade left pretty significantly around this bend. If you do land in the sweet spot right out in the open, you have this final island of guardian trees to contend with. You can play through the back or front door to this basket, very guarded. This is another one that you can attack. It's a placement shot and then a short approach, very technical.
Yeah. I think we're going to see some big hyzers here of the tee, or rather flexes. You really do need to get some distance here to get past these initial trees on the left, and we see her get just past. She'll have an open look from there.
Yeah, it's about 100 to 110 in distance is the sweet spot that you want to hit to get into the open fairway for your second shot. And there is OB short and left. Often players who find those right side trees fall into it. Anneli looks to have remained safe though. Will have still a chance to battle for that birdie.
Kristi up next. Let's see if she can make the correction here and try to get center fairway. Gives a flex, and that's just too much turn, but look at this. It doesn't get quite the distance. She'll end up in that OB short left, unfortunately.
Yeah, it is really rare to hit those right side trees and not find that OB. It's quite unfortunate, and some solid design from the course designer forcing you to hit this initial gap cleanly. This is a nice looking flex from Teele as she pumps it through. Big fade at the end. That is an incredible shot. That's all of 120, leaving her just 50 or so meters up to the pin. That was a great shot.
Yeah, ideal landing spot there. She had to sneak through a few branches on the way, but she did so nicely, and she'll be looking to get her first birdie for her round.
Anneli still with some work though. She had to go around that tight corner, similar to Kristi here. The spike highs are really the only true line to try and get distance up the fairway, but you can see how much that brings in the rough on the right side. Anneli with still quite some distance to the green.
Pink tactic out. She goes for a soft flex to get around the trees, and she does it great. Puts herself in the bullseye.
We see Kaidi now. She's shaping an Anheuser forehand, likely very overstable. She's trying to play this backdoor, as this now wants to fade right. There you go. Sneaks her way into the circle. Good example of how you can really dissect this hole on either side.
Yeah, great touch there. And we see Teele here with her great drive. All she has is a forehand hyzer approach, and we know she's really dialed in with that shot, so she'll be picking up her first birdie of the round.
Kristi with a solid upshot as well, just within the bullseye. As we have Kaidi up first with the putt, finds her birdie. Nicely done.
Yeah, she has great C1 statistics, so those putts aren't too much of a trouble for her. Teele here, big moment for her.
Solid birdie.
Puts it in no problem. She's got green on her scorecard. That's going to feel good coming into the rest of the round.
And this is Anneli. Unfortunately took the early OB. Rather fell down inbounds, but the early trees, she takes a par. And with Kristi taking the early OB and bogey, Teele and Kaidi take some strokes. Here is hole 7, 109 meter par 3 that goes uphill and has a low ceiling about halfway down the fairway. You need just enough height to beat the hill, but no higher to go under these branches. All you need is your disc to crest this hill, and everything wants to naturally filter towards this green. Of course, there is rough on the left and right that can leave you with an obstructed putt, but this is really a very specific shape that requires a perfect command of nose angle and height control. Another one that could be considered a difficult birdie to get.
Yeah, definitely tricky, as you have that little bit of uphill here at the beginning, so you can't really throw nose down. The distance kind of requires a fairway at least, so it can be hard to control that fade at the end. And we see Kaidi here just turning a bit too much. She goes OB right, and that'll be a tough one to save.
Teele now. Currently 1 stroke behind Anneli and 2 behind Kaidi. She has matched the hillside really nicely. If this crests it, and it does, she now needs to fade. It battles up there. Had all the distance to make it just a little bit overturned. She'll have an obstructed birdie putt.
Yep. And we see Anneli here for DD1. Also, see the similar mistakes here, just overturning the disc. It is a very demanding shot, but if you want to go for a flex line, you gotta leave it a bit more left in order to go through the whole fairway. So Kristi here, did that catch ground or not? Hard to tell from her angle. Based on her reaction, I think she caught a bit of grass.
I believe so, yeah. I do not think she went over the hill. We'll see Anneli up first, hitting the early trees. She has a look to the basket. Gets this one flat, a little bit nose down. As this crashes the hillside, even the branch, she settles nicely in circle 1 for a chance at her par.
Solid approach there. And this is where Kristi ended up. Just going for the forehand. I'm guessing a little flex there. The disc has some understability to it, so it had a nice shape to it. She rolls up to about, would you say that circle's edge? Maybe a bit shorter.
Yeah, I'd say right about between 9 and 11 meters. Unclear if she's in or outside. Kaidi finds herself on the right with an awkward stance. She'll be playing a soft forehand hyzer.
Gets that up nicely. And that was from the OB, so she'll be getting in her bogey there. As you see Teele putting from the woods. She stabs it down into the ground and puts it close enough for her par.
She seems happy with that. Always a smile on her face. As you mentioned, qualified to the tournament and now playing on the lead card in the final round. Kristi, with an almost par save, finds the chains, but not enough. It's good to see a positive attitude even in these tense, high-stakes situations.
And Anneli, her putts are probably keeping her positive as they keep going in this round. That's a great job on her. Keep pushing up that C1 statistics.
And they'll keep her positive, often also bringing her score negative. A nice putt to have. Teele now. A nice par save. You can see that she's very routine oriented, very consistent putting stroke, does not often make any changes to it. Good consistency. Yep. And clearly playing well above her rating.
Oh yeah, as I said in the beginning, her second round she shot 90 above her rating, and every round she's been way above it, so Very impressive to see. I'm guessing that her PDGA ratings are going to get a solid boost after this tournament.
Yeah, breakout performance for Teele Toomsalu. I think a new name for many people on the European Pro Tour, but happy to have her in a strong performance here on some coverage for that extra flair. Hole 8. Par 4, 156 meters. You have this initial gap to hit. Most players will be throwing a hyzer on the right side of the early tree as the fairway bends left. A good shot will beat this corner and land in the fairway about here. This leaves you a 50 to 70 meter upshot to the green. Very straight, but also with many trees in the way. You have a small basin green, so a lot of putts often tend to be downhill if you don't get it really close from all sides. Good hole, attackable, but again, very technical. Common theme here.
Yeah, you definitely want to get a clean first shot here to set up that approach. You want to land center fairway, and you'll have likely a straight shot from there. Teele up first. Currently in second place. She'll want to get this one. She goes for the high hyzer.
Looks great.
And she goes way down the fairway. She really has some power on that backhand.
Really utilizing those same drivers, very comfortable with them. Great knowledge of their flight, great power. That is a perfect drive here that will give her a short look to birdie.
Anneli going for the lower line here. Likely to get more of a skip, and she also gets in a great spot there. Center fairway. She has a straight shot for her approach. Can't ask for much more than that.
Two very pure drives. We'll see the height that Kaidi opts to use. She also goes high and wide. She'll look to have this swing around the corner. Also right in the fairway. Not quite as much distance as the other two, but definitely good enough to have a approach and then hopefully a birdie putt.
Yeah, these ladies are definitely showing how to shoot this hole. Kristi also looking good. Gets way down there as well. And wow. Look at them go. They all got within 10 meters of each other there in the ideal landing spot. Let's see if they can execute the final stage of this hole here. All about the approach.
A turnover backhand from Kaidi gets a ricochet off the tree. She looks to be about circle's edge for birdie.
Yeah, she'll definitely have still a chance here to save her birdie. Let's see if they can get cleanly through these guardian trees. Kristi up with her forehand. Soft flex. And she also finds a tree. Gets behind that little skinny guy over there. She'll have a straddled putt for her birdie. Still just in C1.
And look, you can see just how good these drives are. Anneli about 40 meters out, maybe 50. Beautiful approach. Cleans through the whole way, just about 5 meters out. And Teele at her tee shot, just incredible.
Yeah, she might go for a left gap here. And she gets through all of it as well. Puts her about 7 or 8 meters away. You can really see the advantage of having a big drive here. Really makes that approach a bit easier going through the trees. And let's see how they do here. Everyone has to earn their birdie.
A little bit low with the straddle there. It can be tough if you don't have an ideal stance to get the same amount of pop as you usually do. Kristi now jumps it and fades out just a little bit early.
Yeah, solid commit there. Teele up next to get back in the lead. She puts it in, looking very comfortable in circle 1. She's back to +3 here, but Anneli, she might have something to say about that leader spot.
And I think her comfort in circle 1 really comes down to that routine that we mentioned. Teele making sure she does what she needs to do to be comfortable when she's releasing. And Anneli as well, securing that birdie, translating those great drives. Good stuff.
And Anneli, she has that confidence. She's not even putting down her mini on those putts, which is
power move.
Yeah, real power move. Shows how confident she is. Kristi doesn't give that one too much thoughts. Puts it in with confidence.
It's just extra training, you know. You put the mini slightly closer. You'll take that longer putt, get some practice on the tournament day.
That's true. Tournament training is definitely different from regular training, so you gotta take your chances while you're out there.
Absolutely. We'll see them take their chances here on hole 9. Another par 4, this one 150 meters. Definitely one of the harder par 4s. You have an initial tunnel shot. To get to the end of it is roughly 80 meters. A really good shot will get around the corner, but anything straight to this opening is just fine. You see this trench blocking the corner. You can throw either over, before, or within that trench. You'll see a lot of hyzers funnel into there as you then battle through these last trees to this downhill green. Very quick. You need to come in nice and soft. You can really throw two 70 to 80 meter shots straight and find your birdie.
Yeah, these par 4s shape out fairly similarly, so you just have to try to execute the same thing you just did, but this one is definitely a tighter fairway, and you want to keep it much more straight. She goes through the trees on her right, and that's a tough kick into the woods on the right. She'll have to scramble something to try to get her par from there.
Anneli now goes again with a lower release on hyzer the whole way. She fades just a little bit early, gets caught up on one of those final trees to beat. She looks to have sat down though, close to the fairway, didn't kick too much.
Kaidi here. Couldn't quite see it with that, but it looks good. It just gets caught up in that little mound or whatever you want to call it.
The trench, yeah. I believe also an artifact, a remaining part of the war previously.
Interesting. See Kristi here. She also shapes up nicely. Gets past the trench, and that'll be the best drive of the group. She'll have about 50 meters or less towards the basket.
Yeah, she was right by that yellow prodigy marker indicating 50, so she is in a perfect spot. Teele from some thick rough, shaping the forehand out. As you see her spin up there, she will have a straight look to save par. I think a pretty good result considering where she was.
Yeah, that's a great scramble shot there. See Anneli here shaping up the hyzer forehand. Looks good out of the hand. And that's her comfort range once again. Getting lots of that tournament practice.
And Anneli now holding the lead by one stroke. With two good shots, these other competitors are going to want to maintain pace. Make sure she doesn't run away with it. Kaidi with a soft turnover backhand finds a little bit of the tiny patch of green on this green. Should we call it a brown? Probably not. Not a very appealing name.
No, definitely not. But yeah, great approach there. Favoring the backhand approach. And Kristi just finds the first tree in front of her. She wanted to go probably just on the right of that to hyzer in, and this is Teele's bread and butter here. Forehand approach. Shoots it a bit long. That looks like a bit of a sharper disc than she normally throws. I may be mistaken, but usually she has a white approach disc.
Yeah, I think she's only 5 or 6 meters away, though. Still a very good shot. Kristi with the long bid, shaping the anhyzer around the branches. Once again fades out just a touch early. Anneli now for birdie. Great stuff.
Oh, low body English there. She looked a bit uncertain if that was going in, but it's in no less.
Finding her par, actually.
Yep. And we see Kaidi here. Gets in her birdie from the green into the basket. She'll match Anneli at +2. And Teele here, you're right, it wasn't that far away. About 8 meters.
No, a little bit less, surely, right? But a great look.
8 meters is much more impressive, you know. So.
Hey, she secured par after a brutal kick off the tee shot. That is, I think, best case scenario for her after the first shot. So really well done on her to scramble, get up there, save her par. Only one birdie going to Kaidi. Allsalu tied for the lead now with Anneli at 2 over par. The battle continues. Exciting front nine.
A 3-woman race at the top. We'll see who can keep their composure, as each hole will have more and more pressure on it. And here we can see the top 10. Anneli, Kaidi, and Teele duking it out. Kristi a little bit further behind, but in these woods, you never know what will happen. She could definitely have a hot round on the back 9 and catch up with these girls at the top.
Absolutely, and thank you to everyone tuning in to join us for this fantastic coverage. We appreciate your support, and make sure to catch us on the back 9.
See you there, everyone.